The loud knock on my barn door echoed like a gunshot in the quiet afternoon air. It rattled the heavy oak planks and sent an icy shiver racing down my spine. I set down the wrench I'd been using on the old tractor, wiped my hands on a rag, and walked over. When I pulled the door open, 4 men in black tactical-style shirts barged straight past me, no hesitation, no permission. Bold white letters across their chests spelled out troll in block print that looked like it came from a discount online store. Their leader, a stocky guy with a shaved head and a permanent sneer, thrust a clipboard into my face, so close I could smell the cheap ink. By order of the Homeowners Association, he barked, voice loud enough to carry across the fields, "We're here to confiscate all firearms on this property. Hand them over now, or face immediate consequences." I froze for half a second, long enough for them to think they had me. My hands tightened behind my back, knuckles white, but my voice stayed level, almost polite. "This is my land. Private property. You have no right to step 1 foot inside without a warrant." He leaned in closer, breath hot with cheap coffee and arrogance. "We are the law here, farmer. You don't get a say." His 3 buddies dropped heavy duffel bags onto the concrete floor with dull thuds and started sweeping the barn like they'd already won. Flashlights clicked on. Eyes darted over tool benches, Ibalas, the old workbench in the corner. My blood turned to fire in my veins, but I didn't move. Not. One of them, a wiry guy with a neck tattoo, spotted my grandfather's old bolt-action hunting rifle, hanging on the far wall, oiled and gleaming under the hanging bulb. "Found one." Already reaching up, I stepped between him and the gun in one smooth motion. "Back, away." My tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The leader let out a cold, rehearsed laugh. "Or what? You gonna call the cops?" He spread his arms wide. "We are the cops now." That was when I knew for certain. No real badges on their belts, just cheap plastic knockoffs that looked like Halloween costume props. No radios, no D-belts, no weight of authority, just bravado and bad printing. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They didn't know, though, that before I fought the 20 years ago, I spent 2 decades in the United States Army. Not work, not parades, covert operations, direct action, leading small teams into places where the rules ended and survival began. Muscle memory doesn't fade. My eyes had already mapped the barn. 3 exits, 4 hostiles. 1 loaded .357 revolver riding low and comfortable on my right hip under the flannel shirt. I played the part they expected, the startled, outnumbered retiree. "Fine," I said slowly, letting my shoulders drop just enough. "Take the rifle. But you better damn sure about the road you're walking down." The leader sneered wider. "Oh, I'm sure." He never saw my left thumb brush the silent alarms hidden under the edge of the workbench, a small black button wired to a network only a handful of people knew existed. He never noticed the faint vibration in my pocket, confirming the signal had gone out. He never realized the farm hands he'd glimpsed earlier working the fence line were retired Special Forces and recon Marines I'd trained and trusted for years. As his fingers closed around the rifle stock, a single sharp whistle sliced through the heavy barn air. 3 figures slipped inside through the side door like smoke, silent, fast, weapons already up and steady. The fake enforcers were too busy posturing to hear the movement behind them. The leader spun back toward me, slamming the clipboard against my chest. "Sign this notice. Right now. Or we seize every weapon you own and fine you 10 grand for violating HOA safety codes." I glanced down at the paper. Typed in Comic Sans. My last name misspelled twice. No official seal. No notary block. Just threats on cheap copy paper. I let a small, cold smile touch my lips. "You really believe this scrap is going to hold up anywhere that matters?" His jaw clenched so hard I heard the teeth grind. "Court? You won't make it to court." He jerked his head at the tattooed one. "Bag the weapons. If he resists, bag him too." The thug stepped toward me, shoulders rolling, fists flexing like he was about to enjoy this part. That was when I dropped the mask. In one fluid motion, muscle memory older than the barn itself, I drew the revolver and leveled its center mass on his chest. The hammer clicked back with a sound that seemed to echo forever. The barn went dead silent. Even the dust motes seemed to hang motionless in the shaft of sunlight. Step back. My voice was calm, steady. The voice of a man who had given orders in darker places than this. The leader's face drained of color. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. You can't pull a gun on HOA officials." I tilted my head, smile never wavering. Funny thing, real HOA officials don't usually carry plastic badges from a costume shop. One of my men kicked the main door wide open behind them, shotgun shouldered, eyes hard. Boss, perimeter secure. The four imposters spun in panic, suddenly realizing the barn had become a kill box. Hands jerked up, eyes darted. Sweat bloomed on foreheads. The leader tried one last bluff, palms out. Okay, let's all calm down. We were just following orders. Whose orders? I asked, stepping closer, revolver never wavering. He swallowed so hard his Adam's apple bobbed. The president of the AAOA. She said you were a threat to the community, that you had illegal weapons stockpiled, that you were planning something. I cut him off. I am the community. This is my land. Every firearm here is registered, legal, and if it matters, cleared through channels you'll never touch. True fear flickered in his eyes for the first time. You boys picked the wrong farm, I said quietly, and you have no idea who you're dealing with. Outside, the low rumble of heavy engines rolled closer, tires crunching gravel, growing louder by the second. The leader's head snapped toward the sound. Who's coming? His voice cracked. I holstered the revolver with deliberate slowness. Military protocol, Phase 1. The barn doors exploded open again. Blinding afternoon sun flooded in. 3 blacked-out SUVs skidded to a halt in a perfect wedge, kicking up clouds of red dust. Doors flew open. A dozen men in dark tactical gear poured out, moving with the crisp, lethal precision of operators who had done this before. No police patches, no agency logos, just a single embroidered golden star on each chest. The fake enforcers stumbled backward, bravado evaporating like mist. What the hell is this? One whimpered. I didn't answer. My team knew the drill. 2 men flanked left and right, sealing exits. The rest formed a tight arc, rifles at low, ready muzzles down, but ready to rise in a heartbeat. The leader tried one last gasp of authority. You can't just bring militia onto property. That's illegal. I took a slow step forward, boots echoing on the concrete. Private militia? I repeated softly. This is a federal response team. My team. He blinked, confusion warring with terror. Federal? You? What are you even talking about? I locked eyes with him and let the truth settle like lead. I'm not just a farmer who retired to raise cattle. I commanded a covert U.S. Army unit specializing in counterterrorism and domestic threat response. You just triggered protocols reserved for active threats to national security assets. He visibly trembled. The plastic badge on his belt caught the light and looked even cheaper now. We didn't know, he stammered. She told us you were dangerous. The AOA president. She said you were stockpiling weapons to start an uprising. She promised cash, good cash, if we got everything out before the real authorities arrived. My blood surged hot. So you impersonated officers, stormed my property, and tried to rob me because some petty tyrant dangled a few dollars in your faces? Before he could answer, a new engine roared closer. A silver pickup skidded to a stop just outside. The driver's door slammed. Karen stepped out, perfectly pressed blouse. Designer sunglasses, smug smile wide enough to split her face. She strutted forward, waving her phone like a scepter. Well, she sneered. Looks like I arrived just in time to dangerous criminal threaten legitimate AOA enforcement officers. I stepped into her path. These aren't officers, Karen. They're criminals, just like you. She laughed, that sharp, grating sound she used at every meeting. You really think anyone will believe you over me? I run this community. When the sheriff gets here, you'll be in cuffs before the sun sets. I didn't flinch. Karen, you have no idea what kind of storm you just walked into. Behind me, my man murmured low. Boss, Phase 2. I gave the slightest nod, eyes never leaving hers. Before she could blink, my team moved like lightning. Cuffs snapped onto the wrists of the 4 imposters. Cheap badges and toy guns were stripped away and bagged as evidence. The leader tried to shout thing, muzzle pressure against his spine, ended it instantly. Karen's smile cracked. What are you doing? You can't arrest my men. I reached into my vest and pulled out the thick leather wallet. Flipped it open. The gold federal badge caught the sun and threw fire across her face. You want to talk about law? I asked, voice low and cutting. I am the law here. She stumbled back a step. That's impossible. You're just a farmer. I earned this land with 20 years of blood and service to my country, I said, stepping closer. You thought you could send fake cops to intimidate me? To steal my firearms? To steal my freedom? Not ever. Her hands shook so badly the phone nearly slipped. I'll call the sheriff. He'll side with me, he always does. Almost on cue, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up the long driveway and stopped at the edge of the yard. Karen's face lit with desperate hope until the sheriff stepped out, touched the brim of his hat to me, and said calmly, "Colonel." We came as fast as we could. Her mouth fell open. Wait, Colonel? I nodded once. That's right, and now you're going to answer for everything you've done. The sheriff turned to my men. Get these impersonators into the back of the cruiser. Federal charges are already in motion. Karen spun in panic. No, this isn't fair. I run this neighborhood. You can't do this to me. I met her, eyes cold, final. You don't run anything anymore. One of my operators handed me a small rugged tablet. Live feed from the hidden cameras around the property played clearly. Karen in the parking lot of the community center, handing envelopes of cash to these same 4 men, pointing at a printed map of my farm, lips moving with instructions. The sheriff held the tablet up so everyone could see. This is more than enough. Karen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, aiding and abetting impersonation of law enforcement officers, and attempted armed robbery. She screamed as cuffs clicked around her wrists. No! This was supposed to be my victory. You ruined everything. I leaned in close just loud enough for her to hear. You didn't just mess with a farmer. You messed with a soldier who swore an oath to protect this land and this country. That oath doesn't expire. As deputies loaded her and the impostors into the vehicles, neighbors began drifting toward the fence line whispering, phones raised, recording the whole thing. I raised my voice so they all could hear. This land was paid for with blood, sweat, and 20 years of service. No Iowa, no corrupt board. No Karen will ever take it from me or from my family. Cheers rolled across the field, like thunder. I turned back to my men as the cruisers pulled away, lights flashing into the gathering dusk. Phase 3, I said quietly. Clean up, reset, stand down. One of them grinned, his rifle. Yes, sir. Same time next week? I chuckled, first real laugh in hours, and holstered the revolver. Let's hope we don't have to. I walked out onto the porch as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the fields gold and red. The barn stood quiet again. The air smelled of dust, gun oil, and pine. I stood tall, breathing deep. My home was safe. My oath was intact. And I made a silent promise to the land itself. No one will ever take this from us again. Not while I draw breath.